This video is sponsored by this unicorn, and if you're curious as to why a unicorn's sponsoring videos, find out at the end of this one. This is the brand new OnePlus Open, the latest foldable to hit the market, and the first from OnePlus. Now, obviously, I can't really give this a fair comparison to the iPhone 15 Pro Max, so whether or not I decide to make it a video titled, OnePlus Open versus the 15 Pro Max, just know that this has been my daily driver for the last month or so. And so when I switched to this, and I've had this for the last few weeks, my thoughts on what I like and what I dislike are kind of in comparison to what I've been normally using, which is a normal slab style phone. But before we get into everything, we should mention that this OnePlus Open does retail for $16.99, which is kind of in line with what other foldables of this nature are kind of going for. Like, I think the Pixel Fold was $17.99. The Galaxy Z Fold is somewhere around there. These could certainly be cheaper, but right now this is kind of the price point. But there are some really good launch offers happening. So you can get this for $14.99, so $200 off with any phone that you trade in, quite literally any phone you have, regardless of working condition, and immediately get a $200 off credit towards this device. So definitely look into that if you end up interested in this device. So that can certainly help with the whole high price tag situation. With that said, if you haven't checked out foldables in a long time, just know that they are absolutely getting better and better with each new model that comes out. I feel like I can confidently say that this might actually be the best folding phone that I have used. And I've used almost every major folding device that has come out in the US, let's put it that way, and a couple of, overseas. But in the US, we've had a lot of them from Samsung, and then lately the Google Pixel Fold. And so this would be like the next new company to kind of join that here in the US. And when it comes to hardware, at least, and the design, it is incredible. So for starters, it's very premium feeling and just an all-around good size when it comes to this foldable style. You're not doing the flip style where you're folding it in half. You're more of folding it this way. And so the knock on some other phones like the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 5 is that it can just get too tall. And that's what made the Pixel Fold kind of nice. It was shorter and wider. And that might still be one of my favorite form factors, but this one isn't that bad. It falls kind of right in the middle of almost being too tall, but then again, kind of just feels like a normal phone. It honestly does feel like my iPhone 15 Pro, just a little bit taller. And then, you kind of have another one stacked, or a slightly smaller, thinner one stacked below it. So just kind of giving you a heads up on what the height and width of the cover screen feels like when you're using it like this. It does remind me more of a normal slab phone than some of the others, and I really appreciate that design element. One thing I do want to mention is that when this phone is folded, it is completely flat. And the fact that these edges are really squared off is actually kind of nice. A lot of companies are starting to figure out how to get their phones to completely fold. I know when they first started, it didn't do that, and that was a recipe for disaster at times. And then the Pixel Fold came out, and that one was completely folding flat. And then Samsung did that with its Z Fold 5 for the first time. And so I'm glad to see that OnePlus went in that direction. It also is pretty thin and light for a folding phone. It weighs only 239 grams, which is technically 1 gram lighter than the iPhone 14 Pro Max. And it's also 11.7 millimeters thin. When you unfold it, it actually becomes 5.8 millimeters thin. So all in all, this is an excellent size, an excellent form factor. It feels great when folded, and it's just not nearly as chunky as some other ones out there. And so I really, really like the way that OnePlus went ahead and designed it. Now, it's called the OnePlus Open, obviously, because the main feature is that it can open up from a 6.3 inch to a 7.82 inch display. And both displays are honestly fantastic, incredibly bright. The brightest displays that I've possibly used, because it's a max brightness of 2800 nits, which is just insane. But perhaps just two of the most impressive things here is right down the middle when you unfold it is the crease, or honestly lack thereof, because the crease and then the hinge are two of the more impressive things. So let's start with the crease. It's so much less noticeable than any foldable that I have used. Almost non-existent in my opinion. And definitely once you start using it, you really don't notice it. You can probably see it when the phone catches light at the right angle. That's not really fair. What I would say is when you turn the screen on, you're looking head on, you don't notice it. When you use it, when you put your finger over it, there's barely anything here. It's absolutely insane. And then the hinge is so sturdy. Obviously, you could just, have it in different angles. And this spine of this like hinge does a really good job of holding everything up. You can definitely get it to any angle that you want. But then obviously once you get to like the end of that hinge area, it's going to snap either open or closed. But overall, A+ design on the screen, on the hinge, very impressed. And as far as actually using these displays, again, they are incredible. They're LTPO. They have a huge edge-to-edge display here when you unfold it. Little camera cutout, but otherwise it is mostly just a large screen. And the other good part about this phone is actually the cover display. You can use this 100% of the time if you want, although that makes it kind of pointless to have the larger part. But like if you're a 90%er where you want to use this 90% of the time, it'll feel like any other phone. Again, a bright, vibrant, sharp display and super great for consuming content in my opinion. And of course, multitasking and getting things done, which we'll talk about the multitasking features in just a second. On the side of the phone, you still get an alert slider. Actually, this was removed for a while in some OnePlus phones and now it's back. It's kind of hard to get to because it's a little tall up here, but you can do it and you can go from ring, silent, whatever you want. And then there's the power button here right underneath it, and it has a fingerprint reader. And I don't really like this now. I used to be clamoring for Apple to do this. And so you can remove the true depth camera system and go back, but I definitely take that back. I kind of hate the placement of this because it's right where my thumb goes and it doesn't do a great job of recognizing if you're just like slightly off, obviously. And so I am just constantly locking myself out of this phone and having to enter in my password. And so not a big fan of that anymore. It's a pretty minor thing. You can turn it off if you don't want to, but then you lose out on some security. So not a huge fan of companies doing that. I kind of wish there was a way to just do like the in-screen one, but just something to point out. Now, the back of the phone, there is a little bit of like fake leather going on here. I don't really mind that. No fingerprints, which is always good, but you do have this massive, massive camber bump, and I'm sure you've noticed it. It's definitely hard to miss. I'm sure it's also going to be a love-hate thing for most people. I personally kind of like it. I don't know why. It looks impressive for some reason. And it's also a good place to like rest your hand. Like look at how the phone kind of this should slide off, but it's resting on my finger. And so that's really, really cool. However, if you're taking an ultra wide photo and you have your hands naturally like this, you're gonna, as you can see here, you're gonna see your fingers in the picture. So it kind of ruins some of your photos. Just readjust your hand, but also another thing worth mentioning. Now, speaking of these cameras, this is a Hasselblad system, and it's pretty good for a folding phone, honestly. You let me know in the comments down below what you think of these pictures. I think when you compare it to the iPhone for cameras, I'm still, call it biased or whatever. I just personally prefer the images that I get out of the iPhone compared to like most phones out there. But for a folding phone, it's a pretty good sensor. It's a 48 megapixel stacked Sony sensor as your main camera, a 48 megapixel ultra wide, and a 64 megapixel telephoto lens that's 3x optical zoom with a 6x in sensor zoom. So obviously I compared some of the photos here to the iPhone 15 Pro Max and would love to hear from you in the comments down below, your thoughts on which one you like better. But yeah, overall, for now, it's still kind of early in my testing, but I really do like the photos that I get out of it. It's serviceable. It's probably not the main reason why you would buy a folding phone, but it is nice to have a good camera, especially in a very versatile device like this one. And lastly, as far as software goes, it obviously runs Android. But OnePlus did implement some cool multitasking features to make the foldable experience that much better. So you have Open Canvas, which is a feature that allows for multi-window operations or split screen functionality that isn't restricted to the physical size of the display. And these windows can be moved around, you can stretch them, you can resize them to fit whatever it is that you might need. Multitasking is taken to the extreme with the Open, in my opinion, because you kind of have your traditional, like, your single app, which does a good job of making apps work, especially if they're not designed for that. And then you have like splits. So there's your normal dual app split screen. Then you can do triple splits by choosing another app from the dock here at the bottom. And then these can all be side by side. So you kind of have like a majority of the 2 apps and a little bit of the 3rd app showing. And then you tap on that app and something else slides out of the way. Or you can put another app at the top or bottom and have 2 apps side by side. And again, you can quickly tap on it to access that app if you need to. Or if you use 4 fingers to pinch, you can then get a condensed view of all the apps that you have open, which is pretty cool if you need it. There's great continuity between closed and open screens. So if you're scrolling in an app that you have opened and then you kind of want to close it and go back to a normal mode here, you can do that by just quickly swiping up and take over from where you last left off on the open screen. Now, the one thing I don't like is that your home screens for each display do mirror each other. So if you change one thing on the closed, cover screen here, and then you open it up, it's going to have that change. That's just what happens with Oxygen OS out of the box, which is OnePlus's skin for Android. And I don't really like that. I kind of wish you could keep things separate, or like there was an option to do that or not, but I'm sure a 3rd-party launcher could help with this. I just, I kind of want to use it the way it is intended out of the box. And so not a big fan of not being able to customize each different, screen, the cover or the unfolded one. But overall, folding phones, in my opinion, are just the future for power users and for professionals who just want more versatility and more screen real estate. And I really hope that Apple at some point does something like this in the future. I just think that it would be so good. I sound like a broken record because every foldable phone that I've checked out on this channel, I try to tie it back in with you Apple fans out there, and it's hard for me to do because Apple just doesn't have it. But if they do something like this and they do it soon, this is the blueprint, in my opinion, for what to do. It's a fantastic foldable, especially for OnePlus's first attempt at a foldable device. And so I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. What are your thoughts? Is this enough to get you to switch? I know some of us Apple fans are tied into the ecosystem and just don't like Android and like iOS. And so that could be a non-selling point for you, but I personally love it. And if this had some of the things that I would get out of my iPhone, this would be my daily driver, no questions asked. Before we end this video, I do want to give you more information about today's sponsor, PaperCut. Now, do you remember that unicorn at the start of this video? It actually comes from a video that's doing the rounds at the moment from PaperCut software. Never heard of PaperCut? Here's the thing. If you ever went to school, you probably used PaperCut because their software is used in thousands of schools around the world to manage their print environment. And it's not just education. PaperCut software is used in every workplace you can imagine and in every country, even Antarctica. So what's the point of PaperCut? Why would you want to know about this? Well, you can have a lot of benefits from this software, but I'll name a couple of things. So you can improve print and data security by securing infrastructure around who can print, what they can print, etc. It saves on printing costs and the environment by utilizing features like Print Deploy, which helps administrators easily and automatically deploy printer drivers and print queues. And it easily enables bring your own device printing, so you can print from any mobile device regardless of any platform, or any computer regardless of platform. So if you haven't figured it out by now, it's also extremely compatible with macOS and iOS. So visit the link down below for more information on PaperCut and learn how to try it out for yourself today. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.